Let's jump right into it. How are we doing, Sean?
I'm all right. It is 10:15 a.m. on the eastern coast of the United States of America.
Cool.
Um, and I'm doing all right. How are you?
Perfect. I'm good. I feel like I brought the summer back into Germany while coming back from Italy last week. And so the weather's quite nice today, actually. About to be on the birthday party of my friend tonight. So yeah, doing all right. Work done for this
Nice.
week, recording this podcast, and then start the weekend for sure.
Cool. What'd you do in Italy?
I was just traveling, doing this road trip for about 9 days with my best friend through a couple of cities: Milan, Florence, Bologna, Pisa, and some seaside beaches and stuff.
Nice. How did you get around? Did you take buses and stuff or
No, we just
trains?
took the car actually.
Oh, you took a
Yeah,
car. Okay. Nice.
pretty neat solution for Europe get around,
Yeah, right.
actually from Germany where we were at. Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, we did not get to connect last time you were here, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. What a
Why-
trip that was.
yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. We'll get to that in a second. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick, say some words about what you're doing at the moment, and I think we will roll it off chronologically of how we met and stuff.
Sure. So my name is Sean. I'm from New York. 22 years old, soon to be 23 later in the year, I guess. Right now, well, I just finished university, and I finished university in the middle of a pandemic, which is pretty awful. Which doesn't really open up my opportunities to do much at the time being. But it was actually good because it gave me a choice, or it gave me a chance to just really think about where I want my life to go, because I couldn't do anything. So I had to really think. And I guess you could call it lucky that I realized what I actually want to do. But I wish that I had realized earlier, of course, who doesn't? But yeah, I started realizing that I wanted to do a little bit of English teaching, or maybe become, I don't know, a professor in English or something. I started reading a lot after college and during college, and I realized that like I really just love languages and literature in different languages, and I think it really connects people, and it connects me, I think, more deeply to the things that I like. So I started realizing that I was going to do that, that at least my life was leading in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started taking that path. I took like a class online, while the pandemic was going on. Like I said, I had to do something. I wasn't like, there was nothing going on. So I figured I'd make the best usage of my time.
Yeah.
And in between, I've been working, I work at a bar. I'm a bartender, kind of drifting right now, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a little bit until a lot of us find that spot that we've tried to get to. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That sounds super awesome. That opens up a lot of things I want to talk to you about today, actually. So it was kind of a perfect introduction. I found it really interesting because I think right now, as you said, we're all kind of in this mode of like, are we there yet? Are we there yet to come to
Yeah.
this back to this normal? But honestly, I'm at the point where I'm thinking it's never going to be like it was before.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner you kind of get used to the way it's going to be, and by that I mean not knowing how it's going to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah, of course.
you're better off. And
That's true.
while doing that, perfect thing you said, just trying to figure out what you want to do in the situation, because the truth is no one knows what's going to happen, no one knows what's the right thing. And I don't want to get into the debate of being vaccinated or not today, and,
Yeah.
and how that will slowly split our communities if we don't watch out for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's an awesome thing what you said with trying to use your time wisely, while not being able to do shit anyways, excuse my language. And
I was wondering if I was allowed to do anything like that.
yeah, no, do that, dude. It's my
Okay.
podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want. If they take
Sweet.
us off, start something new. Yeah, no, but that's exactly one of the things I want to talk about today. And I can totally understand what you mean by, connecting to people through different cultures, through different languages. I think
Yeah,
that suits it perfectly of how we both actually met. Why don't you want to
exactly. Yeah,
share
I
a
mean,
couple
we
of things
met.
of yeah, like how you experienced that whole situation. I don't even know how it started. Probably in
It
school in
was, it
Spain,
was, we had that school. We had a language school, and you were taking Spanish classes, and I was taking Spanish classes. And I remember noting that you weren't in the first level Spanish class, which means that you knew some Spanish before you took the class, or you quickly graduated to the A2 or something like that. But I remember realizing that and being like, oh, this guy speaks a little bit of Spanish. And then we went out, and you spoke a lot of Spanish. I was like, oh crap, okay, wow. And obviously, like, everybody becomes fluent in Spanish when you're in Spain drinking a bunch of beer, going from bar to bar. Like
yeah,
that's just kind of how that works. But yeah, that was it. And I remember one day, I was living with a host family, and it was like really, they were very, I guess, closed off. Like
yeah,
they didn't really like, um, other people being in their house and stuff, and like they were just like kind of like stay away type thing, which I understand. They live in the middle of a city. Like you never know who can walk through your door.
yeah.
Um, so one time, I guess people were going out doing the thing that we had done a bunch of times already or whatever, and I was just like tired. I didn't want to go out, and I'm laying in bed watching, like, I think it was like Avengers Endgame, or no, Avengers Infinity War or something, because I hadn't seen it yet, and all my friends were talking about it. It was just like 2019, right before Endgame came out, and
Exactly.
I'm watching it, and this guy Leon just like bursts through my door. And he's just like, hey, you coming out tonight? We're gonna go out tonight. I was just like, I was like, whoa, it's the guy from class. you know we had briefly met before that, but you were friends with my roommates, so that's why you were there. But I was so confused at first, because I was like, how did he get here? And then Adam comes in right behind you. He's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go out, we're gonna go to the Cafe Berlin, and then we're gonna go to La Cucina or whatever. And I remember just being in bed, be like, no, I'm all right. you know
Yeah,
I think I'm
yeah,
gonna stay in bed. But yeah, I remember that being one of my earlier encounters with you before, and I was like, I like this guy. I like his audacity, his spirit. Because you really did almost convince me to go out that night, but I was still tired.
yeah. I was a little sad because I was, you know, the guys were always partying, Adam and Jake,
Yeah,
always into it, always going for it. And some point that was a little much for me. So I think at that
yeah,
night we also both understood, okay, this is a guy,
yeah,
both
yeah. I
both of
remember
us who
that.
can also take a chill night out, just
Yeah,
have some talks. And I think this is where all kind of started through the whole thing going down in Valencia, by the way, in Spain. Through
yeah,
all the trips we took with this group that was around us,
yes,
slowly building up awesome nights at bars and clubs, but also like having those talks like we have now. And for me, it's always super difficult to really understand where it all started, right?
mm,
I won't forget that encounter, for
yeah,
sure not.
yeah,
And but then yeah, it kind of went from there, right? Just enjoying those few months I was there. I was only there for 3 months, unfortunately. You were there for a
mm.
little longer through school, I
Yeah.
believe.
I was there for like, I think I got there January 10th, left May 10th. So however many, I think that's like 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I get there right. I think around by the middle of January, and then I left by the end of March, and then go to
Yeah.
Canada.
Did you
Yeah.
leave like right after FIAS or something?
Yeah, well, I was only in school for 2 weeks because I was only doing this like
Right.
pre-internship Spanish refreshing course or whatever, which I don't know, was a full program for me because I'm surprised you said I was speaking so well in Spanish because I was not feeling comfortable at all.
You totally were.
the fact was I only had one year and like 4 months of Spanish in school
Mhm.
before before I went to Valencia. So it was
Yeah,
kind of like
right.
jumping into
When
cold
you're
water,
dropped in
but
Spain, yeah.
you know, whatever works. And then I went to do that internship at that startup, and then we saw each other through all the trips and the parties that we did through the school and stuff.
Yeah, well, the way that it worked was that people just kept in contact, and
Exactly.
like if you
Yeah.
meet a cool guy at school, it's like pretty safe to say that going out with that person with a group of people wouldn't be that bad. It probably would be pretty fun. So like, yeah, it wouldn't be awful. No.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, they would always just like be like, "Oh, I met this guy at the school. Invite him." You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really matter. It
Yeah.
was just
Exactly.
anybody there was pretty much invited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
that was so fun. I really love
100%.
that.
Yeah, I also remember the last night that I was there where we were like trying to get together this group, and it ended up being a super random group that again started at Cafe Berlin, this one cafe like bar thing near where you lived in Shativa. And then we went from there and up ended up in this Irish pub or whatever, English pub.
Yeah, was it
And
Liverpool?
yeah, like this Liverpool bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Liverpool. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, was it called Liverpool? Okay.
It
Yeah.
was called Liverpool. It was called Liverpool. They're they don't hold back with their names.
Yeah.
One of them's called Cafe Berlin, and the
Yeah.
other's called Liverpool.
Yeah. Yeah. The creativity on its peak. Yeah. No, that was awesome though. That was the last night. All of us just like singing and talking until it
Yeah,
built up. That was pretty fun. That was
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
That's what it's all about, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to the shout out to the AIP school, man. That place was great.
Yeah,
It's the
AFP
only
language
reason.
school in Valencia. Correct.
Yeah, it's the only reason why we were like able to just constantly have the social
Yeah. Yeah.
pressure pushing us together.
Yeah. They built the whole base for us and
Yeah,
enabling all the trips and everything. Definitely.
yeah, for
Definitely.
sure.
How did you experience the year after? I mean, now it's been almost more than 2 years since we both left Valencia. Like, what did you do during that time, and how did you experience the friendship with me and people that you met there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I guess it at this point warrants the bringing up of who else I met in Valencia, which was my girlfriend. Right now, her name is Michelle, and we met at one of the same bars that Leon and I would always go to, just like right down the block from my house. But we met, I think, probably like late January. I was at, yeah, it was like February 1st or something. We spent around the same amount of time that she was in Valencia for. She was in Valencia for like 2 more months after I met her. She left in like March and I left in May. Next time I saw her wasn't until like July or something.
Yeah,
So as to the overall question, a lot of it was spent waiting to do something. A lot of that time after leaving Valencia, when everything was constantly happening, doing like I had a lot of friends there, and like obviously I have my friends back home, but they knew that I was going to do something big, right? So everything was always happening in Valencia, and then once I came home, everything really slowed down and really just kind of stopped moving. And I started working again at this job that I used to work at, which was a garbage man at a beach. I was just going from garbage pail to garbage pail, picking out garbage bags and just filling them up and just getting really dirty and gross. And that was just my job. But after living in this very beautiful and uh, cli- uh, good climate city, and then going straight back and just doing like hard manual labor, like 5 days a week for 12 hours a day was like pretty jarring. Um, but yeah, of course, bringing all of the friendships that I had with me back to America was really cool. Like along with you, I still keep in contact with one of my friends. You remember Andrew from South Africa?
yeah, of
Uh,
course. Super.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he was a great guy, and I still talk to him, from time to time. The only problem is that with this pandemic, there's just really not been much to talk about, like with the people that I met traveling, I would normally talk about traveling or, things that we did together. And, I can't really do that because I don't travel as much, or I do travel, but I don't I don't go all over the place. I just go to see my girlfriend. I go to see Michelle wherever she is. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's also been defining a little bit of my life past, Valencia, is just like figuring out when I'm going to be able to be with her next, because I want to do that. And, it's always kind of a thing to have to plan, because I'm either going to go there or she's going to come here. And, you know, during the pandemic, we've had multiple times when she was supposed to come here, but for some reason my country just can't get its shit together and start allowing European travelers in. So she's still on the no fly list, which sucks,
Mhm.
she's got a flight for October 7th that she's just not going to be able to make. We don't know.
That's
So,
crazy. That's crazy. My sister actually just flew to the States last Sunday for her high school exchange. And
oh, so she was doing through school.
yeah, yeah, and the whole visa thing and
Yeah.
for the whole year, I think that's a little bit of a different story, but it still took forever. Um, yeah, I don't think most governments in the world are doing the smartest things at the moment
Yeah.
with how they treat their people. But yeah, I think something's is going to happen soon. I don't really know what. I don't really want to find out until it does.
I think they
But
might. I mean, this is an optimist speaking. I'm hoping that they'll open the borders soon in America, but like I said, you never know.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so like coming back, uh how has that affected you though? Like having this huge appreciation, this change from like being able to travel, being able to meet people from, different cultures at once. And also I think you guys did some traveling in Spain in general as well, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, along with the trips that we took with that class, which honestly they were no normal field trips. They were
No.
awesome. They were culturally enriching to the greatest degree that I feel like 90% of people that travel to Spain don't get that experience, which I was
Yeah.
very happy for that. But along with that, yeah, Michelle and I did a little bit of traveling. We stayed in Madrid, not Madrid, Madrid for like 4 days, and it was really hot and it was kind of hard to walk around, but I was just happy to be there and happy to be with her, that we were able to do a lot of stuff and able to explore and, found a lot of like little nooks and crannies of the city that are just super cool, like little tiny restaurants or whatever, or like, cafes. And yeah, I really love Madrid from what I saw. Only stayed there for a few days, but yeah. And within Spain, it wasn't really much. Oh, well, also I checked out Barcelona. My cousin lives in Barcelona. He's like a Navy ship captain or whatever. So he's got like a really nice apartment or whatever. And he was like, oh,
Okay.
he was like, come visit me. And I was just like, sure. Can I bring Michelle? He was like, who's Michelle? Sure. I had no problem with that. So, Michelle and I went to Barcelona a little bit. That was like right after we met. And, there was never really like a plan for that. It just happened. Um, did a little bit of traveling through Germany, but I would say, yeah, I mean, from ultimately I was before I was focusing mostly on the micro effects of traveling, as in how did it change my schedule and how did it change how my life was functioning. But I mean, for like the more macro things, like the big like lifestyle changes, it's definitely taught me that what I thought was the end was absolutely not, and it is, to sound as corny as possible, it is actually the beginning. Like I thought once I was done with college, most of my life, I thought that once I was done with college or once I was done with university, like there was not much after that, and it would kind of just get like I'd get a job and I'd get married and I get a house and I do all that, and I was just like dreading all of this stuff happening because I wasn't ready, and I'm still not ready. But now I know that there is absolutely like with as many phases of life as I've had already, there's 20 times more that I'm yet to live, and I'm excited to live, and I'm excited to like get to the next part of my life,
Yeah.
which I never thought it would exist. But, with all the people I've met, with all the lifestyle changes I've made and lifestyles I've chosen, like I know for sure that there will be a bunch more to discover about the world. And I think that was the biggest thing I took from traveling.
Thank you for that. I think we've just been talking like 20, 25 minutes, but I think we could already end the podcast here because those last 2 or 3
No, I don't
minutes
want to stop talking to you.
were so enriching. No, me neither. I'm not done with you yet. Don't worry. But that's exactly what it's about, right? Like, and that's honestly not making anyone mad, but only people that have experienced that will understand that. And that's just, for me, that's just the truth. And that's why there are so many cliches about people, especially in Germany, going to Australia or going to States after
Yeah.
school or doing school, because there's so many people that are doing that. And I'm super thankful for all of us that we are able to do that. I mean, right now it's a little more difficult, but just in generally speaking, there are so many opportunities. And
Yeah.
for me now, I'm at that point where I overcame that, leaving my comfort zone to leave my own country for good, a couple of times, that we all just know what we talk about. And those cliches are mostly true, whatever it is.
Right.
And
right.
that's why you also, as you said, you have those cliche sentences of like it just being the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But it truly is, because it's like this new, this new view on life, or this new
for sure.
actual world that opens up to you, that of course, how should you be able to imagine something like that that's beyond your imagination,
You've never experienced it, right?
And that's just now we're just not talking about the places that, like the whole tourism stuff you see.
It's not just the tourists of Serrano, it's like, it's
Exactly.
the actual feeling you get when you see something. I don't know, personally as an American, when you see something that was built in like 1300 and you're like, like that, I mean, in Germany you see stuff like that all the time, I'm sure, but my country is younger than that, so
and that first of all, that, and then also what's even bigger for me and what makes it so special is the people and the experiences and the stories behind all those moments you have together, like us meeting like that, having the parties, then like having this spontaneous stay over for you and Michelle at my house when you're about to depart from the airport in Frankfurt. Like, that's what traveling and meeting new people is about for me personally. Right. All those things that happen without you thinking they will happen. Like, this whole podcast has only established because of me being in Valencia. Because there I met Cynthia, who you also know. And Cooper, I met her boyfriend, who's a super cool guy and like co-founder of this podcast. And that's why this whole thing established in the beginning,
That's so cool. I wish I knew that.
Yeah. And listen to all of it in the first 3 episodes of this podcast. How
right.
All started. So shout out to everyone who has not done that yet. If they want to check it out.
The guest of the show. Hi, Cynthia.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so cool, and I'm so glad that we could talk about that, and comes from the heart, and that's
for sure, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, and also it's not even like a matter of it's not even like a matter of being like, oh, I've traveled and you haven't, so like I don't expect you to understand. Like, every time someone asks me like, oh, how was like traveling or whatever, I tell them, like, before I tell them anything else, I'm just like, you have to do it. Like, you just need to go and go somewhere, and it doesn't even matter where. You could go to the next city, like, you live in New York, you can go to Philly, you can go to Boston, just go there and stay there for like a night, 2 nights, and just be alone, be on your own, obviously be careful. But like, just send yourself into a new place, and the more languages they speak, the better, of course. But like, that's just my perspective on it. But like, just experience it, and then you can come back, and then you can ask me, and then I can tell you. And like, it's not like I'm gonna keep my stories from you just because you haven't traveled. But I do feel like it is almost an inexplicable feeling of being in a new place, and having your guard up, but also taking a bunch of things in, you know. Um, I just remember first arriving in Valencia and just being surprised about how much stuff was the same, you know, because I was expecting it to be like a completely alien world, you know, but I was like, oh, they still have like billboards and, you know, stoplights and stuff. Not stoplights, but like the stoplights look the same, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, I was
Yeah.
expecting everything to be slightly different, but you know, you'll be surprised how much yeah, just how much in common some random city on the East Coast can have with, you know, Valencia, right?
Yeah.
Even though that they're two unrelated things.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. And then I think those basics, and then also how sometimes the thoughts of people living thousands and thousands of miles away can be so equal or, easily comparable to each other just because it's one world at the end of the,
Yeah,
at the
just
end of the
because
day.
we're humans and we like
Yeah.
we go through pretty similar things, you know, regardless of what the filter it goes through is, you know.
Yeah.
And that's
Perfect.
why
Yeah.
that actually brings us full circle to how I discovered my love for languages. Like that is it right there. Is that you know, while history and, you know, whatever else can affect how a civilization has gotten to this point, we're still all at this point, and we still all have a lot of ideas that we need to convey, and every language finds a way to do it, you know, but every language finds a different way to do it, you know what I mean? So I just think the way that languages are a vehicle for ideas in the modern world and also in the past is just super fascinating to me. And you know, since I speak English natively, I want to be able to teach that as a story, you know, because every language is a story. And I want to teach the story of English to people who are listening. And obviously, like, you know, learning English is pretty beneficial in the current world. So I'd be helping people out at the same time as telling stories, which I think is just super great. And that's how I ended up there. Yeah, was from
Dude,
traveling.
from a storytelling perspective, I feel like you're made for podcasts or something like that. It's like we did not plan. He's just like that, like for all of
Uh,
us, for all of you guys out there listening. That's why I wanted him to be on the podcast. Love it. And I after we checked off the story of how we met and everything that connects us in that way of, that time in Valencia and everything that happened after that, I've definitely, if you're down, want to do some episode where you and me just talk about things, not
yeah,
necessarily something that we've experienced together, but just topics in general, because I think that would be super interesting.
let's
And
bullshit, dude.
that's bullshit. Let's
I'm an excellent bullshitter, as you can
yeah,
tell.
good stuff. Good
No,
stuff.
I don't say bullshit. It just sounds like it sometimes.
Yeah, new category. Bullshit. Bullshit round with Sean Bruckner. No, but
I like it.
getting back to what you said, I think you also made the title. I think I'll take that for a title. Language as a vehicle for delivering ideas.
Yeah,
Love that quote. And it's true, and language can help you in so many ways. And if you don't fully understand the language or don't fully speak it, it can also be a great barrier. But at the same time, I think it's always amazing of how you experience people being native in that language, wanting you to help if you're not. Like the love I see for most of the Germans, if you speak English with them, they will somehow try to manage to help you
oh
just
yeah,
because,
oh yeah,
they want to speak it and want to get better at
yeah.
it.
I think it's actually just a stereotype that Germans don't like helping English speakers because
Yeah.
every time. I mean, like I've lived in Germany for like 7 collective months of my life, so I have learned a little bit of German, and you know I can navigate a public space in German. But if there's something specific that I need to ask, and I'm not with Michelle, um, I have to speak English, and every time I've done that, German people are so nice. German people really have no problem, and obviously I'm picking the nicest person I can see, like I'm picking that guy who's like laughing and smiling, because like obviously he's gonna be nice, but I think it's totally a stereotype that like Germans are like these grumpy guys that don't want to like talk to you on the street or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. I noticed you talking about that, and I just wanted to tell my experience with it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's
Yeah,
perfect. I experienced the same way when being in the States for the first time when I was
yeah,
15, you know.
yeah.
I was not 100% convinced it's a good idea for me to go there for a whole year at 15. Um, took
Not
a flight
100%
from,
convinced, though.
what's that?
Not 100% convinced that
Yeah,
you
no, it
going
was
to
it
the
was a
country.
great idea introduced and convinced um through my uncle, my cousin, my dad mainly, and a couple of friends I had. And I was like, I'm doing the right thing. Just hop on this plane to New York, have this orientation for 4 days, and then go to my
Work,
host family
baby.
in New Hampshire. Touchdown New York, wasn't even thinking about it anymore. I think it was like
Yeah,
150 people from 6 different countries. And that's where it all started. That's kind of what made me to become the person I'm now becoming more and more. And of course now it's a little more consciously that I'm navigating myself into enjoying those things that we enjoy together, or
yeah,
traveling in general. But I can totally understand what you said about being here in Germany, people being helpful, as me being in the States.
yeah.
Of course they don't speak German. I was a little shocked, actually. A little side story about this one Austrian teacher that was talking to me in German after 2 weeks being in school. And I was so confused and already so much into the English language that
Yeah.
uh, I was asking him for please switching back into English, because
That's so funny.
perhaps after 2 weeks of just speaking English, I forgot my native tongue,
Yeah.
which he found quite funny. And we also played some German jokes on the rest of the school, which was pretty cool. But in general, the American public is super helpful of trying to help you
Yeah.
with understanding the language and getting better at it.
I mean, like, really, as an American, like living in New York, if somebody came up to me and they had a German accent and they were asking like a question about the town that we're in right now, like I would drop everything to help them, or a foreign accent in general, just because like you just don't get that much. America is just so big, and
Mhm.
so if someone's going to come from a different place, they're probably going to go to New York City, Manhattan, or Los Angeles, or Chicago. They're not going to come to my little town, like 50 miles away from Manhattan, and like rent an Airbnb. They're not going to do that. So when somebody is there, or like you were in Vermont or something, when someone is in a place that doesn't have this huge like cultural diversity, I guess you could say, like when someone talks to you and you're a native of that place, you're like, oh wow, this is really interesting, like where's this person from, blah blah blah, like you're not going to immediately just start like, or at least if you're a kind person, like you're not going to immediately just start asking like where are they from, like what are they doing here, why don't you go back to your country, like
Yeah.
and I do think that is a stereotype of Americans, because I mean, like that's actually been said by Americans, like go back to your country, and that is gross, of course. But I do think that when it comes to like you know travelers being from different places of the world, like
Yeah.
Americans are pretty accepting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they played some jokes on me with the whole accent that I was trying to get rid of subconsciously. Some things,
Yeah.
like at the beginning, I always used to say idea instead of
Oh,
idea. And
yeah,
I always had this problem with the V and the W, like this
yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger problem that
yeah.
he, I think, just ignored at some point
Yeah,
30
you just
years ago.
well, that's the thing though. Like your English is not going to be identical to anybody else's English. Same with mine, But what matters is that you're understood, and up until a certain point, it becomes like you both have the same laptop, but that guy has different stickers on the front of it. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing, and
That's
it functions exactly the same. And as long as you're understood, it doesn't matter. And that's why I always encourage people to have an accent, or like use that weird word that applies to the situation but normally wouldn't be used or whatever, because I think, language is also a vehicle for expressing individuality. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always funny stories around it, because I always used to say veil, for the animal instead of saying whale, and
oh yeah.
it got so big that they were laughing so hard, and me taking forever to understand what they were meaning by that. And I talked about that in one of the last episodes with my best friend from New Hampshire, David. He always remembers this story when we went to the movies, and there was like this ice cream sandwich, and for some reason I can't explain, because you would say it exact same way in German. I said, "Excuse me, how much is that cookie sandwich ice?" And she was like, "What?" I'm like,
Cookie sandwich.
"Cookie sandwich ice right there." And she's like, "You mean the ice cream sandwich?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the cookie sandwich ice."
That's
And
so
I don't
cute.
know
Oh
why
my
I said
god.
that, because in German, that too. You would say ice cream sandwich, like,
Yeah,
or sandwich ice cream, just like
yeah,
turn
yeah.
around dramatically. I don't know why I said that, but that was the story for life. Like, I got birthday presents with cards and a cookie sandwich ice, like all those things, even
That's
years
really
after.
funny though.
It was hilarious.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you're a person who could take a joke about something that you messed up, like that's
Oh,
fine. But yeah,
that
which
was
you are,
fun.
so like
Yeah.
that's another, like little like funny thing that just, I don't know. It only happens when you meet people from different parts of the world. It only does.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
100%, bro. 100%. Okay, I would suggest, since we're gonna do a bunch more episodes together,
Mhm.
that after so many lessons that we both think put out to the listener, especially you, highly appreciative of that. Let's end this episode with the latest story we both experienced, which is also funny since we talk about cultures and languages. So you were at Michelle's until when this year?
So I flew over like very shortly after I got my second vaccine shot, like a day later or something. So I was expecting really bad side effects, and I didn't have any, which was pretty awesome. But I landed on April 18th, 2021,
Mhm.
in Leipzig. Well, actually, I landed in Frankfurt and then took the train from Frankfurt to Leipzig. Um, Stayed with Michelle in Leipzig. We did a little bit of traveling over Germany. I left in early July. I think it was like July 5th or something. But in that time that I was leaving Leipzig, I stayed in Frankfurt for a few nights, and this was initially planned. I was initially planning to stay with this guy right here, Leon, and he called me like a day before I left. He was like Sean, I'm really sick. I don't think you should come and stay with me, man. I was like, all right, no problem. I'll just rent a hostel for a few nights and walk around
It's feeling
Frankfurt.
so bad, man.
No,
Oh my God.
there was no way I was gonna feel mad at you for being sick. Like especially since you sent me that voice message, it was like on a silver platter. It was like a proof that like you were very sick. Um, so I was fine with it. So what I ended up doing was setting up a like a Airbnb or a hostel. I did a hostel for a few nights because I was leaving Leipzig on Friday. I was
Yeah.
going to stay with Leon until Sunday and take my flight
Yeah.
on Sunday morning, and that was kind of
And
the plan.
I had an infection, by the way. I didn't have corona for all the
Yeah,
hate.
it wasn't Corona. Yeah,
Yeah.
you told me you got tested for Corona and it wasn't, so I
Yeah,
was just like,
but I was just being careful,
yeah,
with whole situation. But yeah, you were in a hostel in Frankfurt. That's where it
of
all
course.
started.
Yeah, Leon did not have Corona. I was in a hospital in Frankfurt, and I I was just hanging out. Like I got there super late because I took the train from Leipzig and it got delayed, and it was just such, oh my god, it was awful Deutsche Bahn
Thank you
experience.
for traveling with Deutsche Bahn. Yes.
Danke for traveling with Deutsche Bahn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I got to Frankfurt at like I don't know, 11:45 p.m., like right before midnight. And my hostel, little did I know, was in directly in the middle of the city, right next to the Hauptbahnhof, which also happens to be the red light district. And so I'm walking through with my suitcase and like, oh God, oh no, like it's very late at night and there's a lot of people on the streets. And I was like, definitely taken aback because the only time I'd ever been in Frankfurt was, in the middle of the daytime or in the early morning when I just flew there. So like there was never really like, anything that would make me believe that this is a very like poppin' place at night, like there's a lot of people. So anyway, I walk a few blocks and, only word I would describe it is like slightly sketchy, but that's fine. That's cities in general.
That's the red light district in general area about around
Yeah,
the main station in Frankfurt.
yeah. At no point did I feel like actively unsafe. There was
Yeah.
just like, there was just like, oh,
You just
huh.
know sketchy things are happening around you
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere somehow.
yeah. I could tell something was going on, and like, I had no problem with it. I just didn't want to like get shanked or whatever, but whatever. So I get to my hostel, and it's like just like a cutout in the wall, right? And you just like walk in, and you have to hit this bell, and it's like a barred off door. Like you cannot just walk in, because everybody would just be walking in because it's like a nice ass hostel in the middle of the city. And so I'm just like, I ring this bell. I'm just like sitting there with my suitcase. I'm just like, waiting for the door to open. I open it. I walk in, and later that night, it's just like I find like this nice little spot. I'm drinking a beer, and like these two Danish guys come up to me, and they're like, they want to smoke some weed or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, you can smoke it. I don't really care. Like, I'm not gonna smoke it with you, but you could definitely smoke it right here. And so these guys end up being like my friends for the weekend, because like that's just how traveling works. You meet these random people that you get along with and you're like, okay, cool, let's do stuff together. Like it doesn't matter, like and like when you're out with them at any point you could just go do what you want because there's nothing tying you to these people. It's just like a common experience.
Exactly.
So we go out on Saturday morning. We go out and we're just chilling, and they're like talking about their friend Yost. And I'm like, oh yeah, who's Yost? They're just like, oh yeah, he's just this like kind of wealthy guy that we met on our travels, and he's been like taking us to like different places and stuff. And I was just like, oh okay, cool, um, they have like a wealthy friend, so we end up going out with Yost that night. Or no, we were like drinking in the hostel and like playing a little bit of pool, and Yoss was like, oh yes, if you'd like to come, you like open this up to everyone. He's like, if you'd like to come to my private villa in Mallorca next Friday, you're all invited. And we were all just like, oh, all right, I guess. And I was thinking like, oh yeah, if I stay in Frankfurt until Friday, I'm still allowed to be in Europe for another week. My Schengen visa doesn't expire until another week. So I was like, if I stay in Frankfurt for another week, I can hang out with Leon, like he might feel better and like we could really get this working. So I started thinking, and then I didn't realize that I was just putting this whole plan to rely on this random guy that I'd met at a hostel that I had no idea if he was telling the truth. And like all of these like Danish dudes were just like, oh yeah, like I believe him. Like I totally like he's showed me how wealthy he is.
He's
So like
totally legit. Yeah.
yeah, he's totally legit. He's totally not taking us to some random like, cliffside in Mallorca or whatever. So I really almost like fully went through with this plan. I almost just completely committed, and then like
Me
I was
too.
having
Yeah.
yeah, I know, and I was having a conversation with these guys, and they said something that was just so like, I'm not going to repeat it because it's kind of like inappropriate, but it was just like very indicative of their not so nice or not so fair personalities. And I realized that I was about to like book a trip with these dudes, and I was just like, screw this, no way. Like I got up from where we were sitting, and I went up to my room, and I was just like, I'm not doing this. You guys are awful. Like I don't even know if this villa even exists, So I just got up, got in my bed, like took a quick shower, went to bed. It was like 3 a.m. I had a flight the next morning, which I had pretty much already decided that I wasn't going to get on, so I had a flight the next morning. I checked into my flight, went to sleep, got up, and just like walked to the Hauptbahnhof. And then when I got to the Hauptbahnhof, I was already too late for the train because I couldn't figure out what was going on with the train. So I took a taxi to the airport, and as soon as I got on that plane, I just felt like all of my worries and all of my stress about staying an extra week and like doing all this stuff, I just felt it like melt away. I put on The Shining on like the movie screen. I put on The Shining. I fell asleep, and I woke up to the point when he's like walking with the axe around the hotel. So I had that experience, but yeah, overall, it was very impulsive that I decided to do this with these people that I just met. But I thought, I was like, oh, this is what traveling's all about, like impromptu trips to Mallorca. And then I realized that like, it's absolutely not, traveling is about like, enriching yourself and exploring new things and doing it safely, of course, because what I was about to do was a huge risk that I was ready to take because I was just feeling very impulsive. But it ended up, after talking to these guys a little bit more and realizing what I should really be doing, it totally showed itself as a bad idea. And I was glad that I was able to backpedal a little bit from that idea. And, I'm glad that I didn't realize this Sunday night when I had already missed my flight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. And ultimately, like, you were still in Frankfurt. So if I realized later in the week that I didn't want to do this, I probably could have been like, hey, Leon, like, can I chill with you? So I wasn't really like, I wasn't super worried about that. But yeah.
So that was, I think that's perfect because now we can conclude through that story at the end. First of all, funny as shit. Second of all, it could have all worked out because there has been situations, probably not for me, and I think for you, neither for that big of a project or for that big of a just like unimaginable thing to go down, just like meeting a millionaire and going to his villa. But it might as well would have worked out. And sometimes, the spontaneous, impulsive decisions are the best. But then again, of course, as you said correctly, it's always good to kind of feel into it, to kind of have that empathy and, emotional intelligence to look in, okay, who am I actually surrounding myself with?
Right.
And I think it's a perfect note to end on for something to talk about next time. People that you surround yourself with, the difference that can make. And I think also, taking the word of destiny, because that's honestly the biggest feeling I had when we were talking about it. I will always remember that on the phone that night, like, bro, you want to come to Mallorca with this crazy millionaire from England? And I was like, what now? We're going to leave like in 2 days. What the hell is happening? And then like,
you were like, Sean, aren't you like going?
And then like the next day getting up and I'm like, Sean, so what's the plan now? What's going on? Yeah, I just landed in New York. What? Yo, completely changed my mind. Those guys are assholes. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
No, because and you were probably like, fuck this guy. Like this, like Sean just told me about this. No, but what I called you, I was just like, this is what happened. Like, these guys are terrible. It was like basically an escape plan, because I ran from that hostel once I was gone because they were like not happy. It was funny.
Crazy times. All right, man. Thank you. Thank you for this awesome talk. It was even better than I wasn't imagining it. Have a great weekend. I have no freaking idea when this is going to come out. I was actually cutting another podcast this morning.
Okay.
It'll come out at some point. People are going to enjoy it, I think. And we'll be back for sure with some more life lessons and stories, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not sure how licensed I am to give life lessons, but I can give my own life experiences.
Yeah, I give you a license if you need one. There it is.
Cool. All right. The Leon license.
Yeah, the Leon license for life lessons.
Oh, wow. It's very alliterative.
Yeah, I should have put a badge on it, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right, dude. Leon, thank you so much, man.
No problem. All right. Till next time.